Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm breaking down must-buy players for Dynasty Fantasy Football. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. Let's jump into our first player, Jordan Addison. So let's take a look at Addison's current keep trade cut value versus my value. So on keep trade cut, he's wide receiver 25. I have him at wide receiver 22. So 3 spots higher. And in that kind of range, it's rare for me to have a player where I'm more than 3 spots different, especially in the higher value range, like I said. So in Addison's 1 year in the NFL, he had 70 catches, 911 yards, and 10 touchdowns on 108 targets, 4.1 catches, and 53.6 yards per game. Now, we've been spoiled by some really, really good rookie wide receivers, but this is a successful rookie season. There's no way to couch this as a failure. Now, some people are trying to do that, but he was very successful as a rookie, and we should acknowledge that. Leaving him in this current situation, he's just 22 years old, very, very young, younger than a lot of the prospects coming in this year with already NFL success on his resume. He does have a new quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, which is, not ideal, but at least they tried to address the quarterback situation. He's stuck behind Justin Jefferson, who just got a new contract extension, and competing with an injured TJ Hawkinson for the second and third target roles in this offense. Now, for a lot of these reasons, Jordan Addison is devalued in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So here's a couple of trade ideas you could use to acquire him. First one, and this one is a real trade from my Patreon. You buy Jordan Addison for Ricky Pearsall and Marshawn Lloyd. So in a super flex, that would be like a mid-second and a mid to late second. Think about it that way. Of course, Jordan Addison is worth a lot more than that. Someone with first-round draft capital who has already proven success in the NFL. So you never know. Try to send the trade. You might be able to get it done. And then another one, you buy Jordan Addison for either Zay Flowers or Tank Dell. You might be able to get something with Addison for these players. Jordan Addison is a superior prospect to either one of these. Certainly superior to Tank Dell. And I always had Jordan Addison ahead of Zay Flowers. He's 2 years younger or more than these players. Yes, I understand that Jordan Addison is, of the 3, in the worst situation currently. But I wouldn't fade Addison in Dynasty for that reason, because he has years on them where he can gain the value back. Plus, he is talented and, actually did the most of these 3 as a rookie. Although Tank Dell was better on a per game basis. Now, to close the discussion on Jordan Addison, people act like, and there are some people, very loud people, who act like Addison is horrible. They say he's horrible. There's one high-profile analyst, if you know, you know, who can't stop with laughable comparisons recently to Jahan Dotson. That is a joke. That's not a comparison you should be making. Addison had more volume than Dotson as a rookie, by far. Produced more, and actually succeeded. He had targets, yards, and touchdowns, all 3 as a rookie. A lot of analysts just say things for attention these days. They don't care if their analysis is good. And they always also overcomplicate things. You'll see it on Twitter. People want to find this or that. It's really not that hard. Wide receivers who have yards, touchdowns, and targets as a rookie, and Addison earned all 3 with first-round draft capital, usually end up being good. Usually. Sometimes they don't, but that's the vast minority. Usually they're very good. So if you want to debate how good, that's fine. But saying that Jordan Addison is going to be a total bust, there's really just no track record of someone who was this good at earning targets as a rookie with yards and touchdowns who ended up just being terrible. So we'll have to see. But if that isn't telling, I'm pretty in on Jordan Addison. Next up, Kenneth Walker. Now, you might say, well, you also are in on Zach Charbonnet. How can you be in on Kenneth Walker? Well, they're both undervalued for what they offer. So Walker is at running back 11 on KTC. I have him running back 10. So he's not a huge buy, but it's hard to find running back buys. So we have to kind of pick more one that I'm even okay with to find someone I would recommend buying at running back. Otherwise, I could just exclude running back from the buys videos, but I don't think that's fair. Past NFL stats, what have we seen from Walker? In 2022 as a rookie, 228 carries, 1,050 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry, 27 catches for 165 yards. He was great. Once Rashad Penny went down, Walker dominated. And then in 2023, he struggled with some injuries, but still had the volume, still had 8 touchdowns, and still had 29 catches, actually improved to 259 yards receiving and a touchdown. Current situation, we're competing with Zach Charbonnet for touches. And of course, there's a new coaching staff, which I do think is going to revitalize the offense. Although, it's hard to say what the running back split is going to be. But they clearly have Kenneth Walker as their starter for now. Now, how to acquire Kenneth Walker? So one trade I saw in the Patreon, this was a real one, buy Kenneth Walker and a 25-second for Jonathan Brooks. I love Jonathan Brooks. But if I could get a running back who already produced and an additional second for Brooks, I think that's very fair. I'd like to have the extra asset with Walker. Again, you're not going to see a lot of me buying running backs for wide receivers. I don't tend to do that. So in order to buy a running back, it's usually a trade with another running back. And speaking of a trade with another running back, you buy Kenneth Walker for Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco's older than Walker, almost 2 years older, like a year and 10 months older. Pacheco is probably in a better situation, but Kenneth Walker is a better player than Isaiah Pacheco, and I will die on that hill. I am very confident in that. So I think that in the long run, you will be happy having Kenneth Walker, who I do think is going to have staying power, over Isaiah Pacheco, who I think is a good player, but doesn't have the same level of talent. Now, to close out on Kenneth Walker, I'm not saying that I dislike Zach Charbonnet. And I do think that if Zach Charbonnet had gone elsewhere, he might have been a starter. But for now, Kenneth Walker is starting to slip down in ranks too far. I wouldn't want to pay up for Kenneth Walker. He comes with risk. He had some injuries last year. He didn't look as good last year. And Zach Charbonnet is a good player. But he's starting to slip down in ranks too far. A little bit too far. Where, like I said, am I going to spend a first-round pick to acquire Kenneth Walker? No. Am I going to send a wide receiver I like for Kenneth Walker? No. But if I can swap another running back that I like less, like Rachaad White or Isaiah Pacheco for Kenneth Walker, I might do that. And it's also a rare situation on the Seahawks where both Walker and Zach Charbonnet are starting to become values. So you might want to pounce on that. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get my rankings, access to the Discord, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $6 a month. And, everyone always says, oh, it's expensive, but it's really just $6 a month. And you get rankings, Discord, you can ask advanced questions. It's really a good value because I'm on there helping the patrons 24/7. And as I always say, creating independent content is hard. I don't have anyone helping me with the editing. I don't have, a lot of that stuff. But I also don't have the corporate interest saying what I can and can't say. But in order to do that, it needs independent monetary support. And I will be honest with the people on the YouTube. It has been a rough 2024. It's been rough. I don't know why. I think some of it's the economy. I think it's other things. But it's just been tough. And if I sound down on here, it's because I am. It's because I feel that dream of, really turning this into a full-time career kind of slipping away. And it's why I spend more and more time on the Patreon promo in every YouTube video, because I can't help saying that and being honest that if the Patreon doesn't start to do better, the YouTube probably is not going to exist in the future. So if you like this, please sign up for the Patreon. Please. It would mean a lot to me, and it would help keep my content going. Now, to move into our last buy, Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray To me, I don't really understand why he's slipping in value, but he is. He's currently quarterback 11 on Keep Trade Cut. I have him quarterback 9. In his career, he's only really been good. As a rookie, 64.4% completion, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 6.9 yards per passing attempt, and 93 carries, 544 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And you'll notice 2020, still good. More touchdowns than interceptions, 2-1 margin, 11 rushing touchdowns. 2021, good again. More touchdowns than interceptions, 7.9 yards per attempt, 69.2% completion, 5 rushing touchdowns. 2022, double the touchdowns to interceptions. Not as great on the yards per attempt. Still very accurate at 66.4%. 6.1 yards per attempt is not great. And then 3 rushing touchdowns. And then last year, coming off the injury, the rushing production wasn't there, but he was still an accurate passer. Double touchdowns to interceptions, 6.7 yards per attempt. There's room for improvement there. But let's just note that he's been good as a passer every single year. Every single year, he's had at least double touchdowns to interceptions since his rookie year. He's never been bad as a passer. And he's added rushing production on top of it. And this year, he'll be fully healthy coming off his knee injury. Murray's current situation, he has the best wide receiver he's had in his career, Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, I know he had DeAndre Hopkins, but this was an older DeAndre Hopkins. He has Marvin Harrison Jr. as a rookie. Trey McBride is coming into his own as a star tight end. I love his current situation. Some ideas to acquire Kyler Murray. This one is the one I've seen the most. Trading Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts for Kyler Murray in a 25 first. Murray is the discount version of those players. I don't think that they're a whole first apart. So I would love to take the Kyler Murray side there. You buy Kyler Murray for Jaden Daniels, who hasn't done anything yet and is a lot older than people think. I mean, Daniels is only 3 years younger than Kyler Murray. Yes, it's 3 years, but it's quarterback years. Kyler Murray only turns 27. He's still 26 now. That is not old for a quarterback. That's not a point in quarterback years where we're worrying about age. So Kyler Murray has already done what you're hoping Jaden Daniels might do. So I would much rather have Kyler Murray. And then I'm willing to buy Kyler Murray for 225 firsts in Superflex as long as neither is looking to be super early. Then to close out on Kyler Murray, Murray has always produced, always produced. Whenever he's been on the field, he's always been good. For fantasy, at least. There have been times where he hasn't been great for real life, but for fantasy, he's always produced every single time. He's a far, far better passer than he's given credit for. Always been an accurate passer throughout his whole career. He's never been a bad passer. And then he has a big contract already. Like I said, he just turns 27 in August. But for some reason, he's falling out of the top 2 rounds in some super flexes. I'm just missing something here. There's something I'm not understanding about Kyler Murray. So for me, he's one of the biggest buys in all of Superflex Dynasty. Now, as I mentioned before, patrons get to ask advanced questions for the YouTube. So I have a few of them here. So let's just jump into those now. Any hyped up players that you'd advise to not fall for the trap? Could be from a dynasty or redraft lens or both. It's usually the players who have done nothing, who are hyped for reasons. Jameson Williams, Jahan Dotson. In redraft, I just can't get in on Stephon Diggs, who looked washed last year. And now miraculously on a new team with insane target competition, people think he's going to be the Texans wide receiver 1. I have no idea why they think that. Stephon Diggs is a player I'm just out on. So those are some players that I'm not in on. On the flip side, any players that the community hates who you'd advise to ignore the noise and buy in at cost? Generally, it's players with fluky injuries who've burned people before. T. Higgins is like the poster child for this. Yeah, he was part of the Damar Hamlin canceled game. Yeah, he was on the injury report and then didn't play a couple of times. I mean, these are not things that are predictive, but he's burned people. So people are not logical. So they are just done with T. Higgins, and I would advise not doing that. Jalen Waddle at times last year kind of burned people in the same way. I don't count that against him. And then lastly, people are too dismissive of Rome Odunze in redraft just because you can squint and see the same thing that happened to JSN last year. I would advise people to look at some differences. Odunze doesn't have a broken hand going into the season. Odunze is a far superior prospect to JSN. He's a better quarterback. One of the 2 veteran wide receivers that he's competing against is also new to the team, so it's not 2 incumbents. Odunze can also play outside and is far, far more likely to earn playing time in 2 wide receiver sets than JSN did last year. So, yeah, people's lazy analysis to fade Rome Odunze in redraft, and I'm not doing it. Now, another one. In late rounds of a startup, would you take 2 players from a backfield to lock up the backup role or take shots on different backfields? Not doing that. I want to take the best prospects or players. I don't care about locking up a backfield at all. It's a silly strategy. Doesn't help you win. If anything, it limits your upside by being stuck with just one team. So the answer is a hard no to this in any way. Thoughts on Jonathan Brooks? Is he a buy, sell, or hold? Would you be looking to pivot to a running back with this kind of capital from, say, a James Cook or Rachaad White type? Absolutely. I'd be looking to pivot from Cook to White or White to Brooks. I mean, Brooks is 4 years younger or more than these guys. They're not as good prospects. And it's an easy pivot out and buy low on Brooks's injury. Brooks did not have a multi-ligament injury like some people are saying. He will be playing week 1. Don't do the comparison to Keaton Mitchell. It's totally different injury. One of them was a clean tear. The other was a multi-ligament tear. So I expect Brooks to play week 1. I expect him to participate in training camp. And yes, I would rather have Jonathan Brooks over either James Cook or Rachaad White. And I'd be happy to make that trade 1-for-1 in Brooks's favor. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. I have Dynasty, Redraft, Rookie, and there'll be start-sit content on there too, and more. It won't be on Twitter. So the only way to get those direct interactions with me is on the Patreon. And of course, every sign-up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.